Do it quick, I'm wrong, Broken Bride begged. Cowboy refused. We go slow. Together, Emily sat on the edge of the old wooden porch, her hands twisting the edges of her wedding dress. The fabric felt heavy, almost suffocating, and she could feel the tears starting to burn behind her eyes. She had thought this day would be perfect. She had imagined laughter, flowers, and promises whispered under a soft sunlight. But life had a way of shattering dreams, and Emily felt broken, scattered into pieces she did not know how to put back together. She hugged her knees, wishing she could just disappear into the soft, dry grass of the field beyond the house. The past few years had been hard on her. She had trusted people who promised love but left her alone in the darkness. She had believed in fairy tales that ended with betrayal and disappointment. Every time she tried to open her heart, it felt as though the world had sharpened its claws just to tear it apart. Now, standing at the edge of a new chapter, she was terrified. Could she trust anyone again? Could she even trust herself to love without fear? The sound of hooves on the dirt road made her lift her gaze. A cowboy appeared, tall and steady, his boots kicking up small puffs of dust with each step. Luke had lived in this town his whole life. He knew the rhythm of the land, the way the wind shifted over the hills, and the patience that life demanded from those who worked it. He carried himself with quiet strength, a calmness that made people feel as though everything would be all right just by standing near him. When he reached the porch, he tipped his hat slightly and offered a small, gentle smile. Emily's heart skipped. There was something in his presence that felt safe, like a warm blanket on a cold night. But the fear in her chest made her hesitate. Could she trust him? Could she allow herself to feel anything without being crushed by it later? She started, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can trust anyone again. Luke nodded, understanding shining in his eyes. He crouched slightly to meet her gaze, making sure she felt seen. I'm not going anywhere, Emily. Take all the time you need. We go slow together. The words were simple, but they carried weight. They were not promises of a quick fix or instant healing. They were an offer of patience, of steady presence. Emily wanted to believe them, but part of her screamed to hurry, to find comfort immediately, to be reassured that everything would be okay without having to wait. Do it quick, Luke, she whispered, almost pleading. Please, just help me forget all this pain. I don't want to feel it anymore. I don't want to be broken. Luke's expression softened, but he did not give in. He reached out and took her hand gently, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a slow, calming rhythm. I can't do it quick, Emily. Healing isn't fast. But I can be here. I can be with you every step of the way. That's the only way it will last. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to demand the comfort she craved, but instead she let a single tear escape. Luke didn't flinch or try to rush her. He simply sat beside her on the porch, his presence steady, like the ground beneath her feet. For hours they sat in silence. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of hay and wildflowers. The sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the fields with golden light. Emily felt the tension in her chest loosen just a fraction. There was no magic fix, no instant happiness, but there was something else, something she had almost forgotten: hope. In the following days, Emily found herself drawn to Luke in small ways. She watched him from the kitchen window as he tended to the horses, admired the careful way he worked, how he spoke softly to the animals, how he moved with purpose but never in a hurry. There was a rhythm to him that was different from the chaos in her mind. She wanted to reach out, to touch his arm, to feel the safety he seemed to radiate, but she hesitated. Her past had taught her that trust could be broken too easily. And yet every time she saw him, she felt a small flicker of something she thought she had lost forever: comfort, maybe even love. One afternoon, a storm rolled in. Dark clouds gathered over the fields and the wind picked up, rattling the windows of the old farmhouse. Emily panicked. She didn't like storms. They reminded her of nights spent alone, crying into pillows while the world outside raged on. She grabbed her coat and ran outside, her feet slipping in the mud. Luke was already there, waiting by the barn. His eyes softened when he saw her. Storm's coming, he said quietly. We should get inside before it hits. I don't like it, she admitted, her voice breaking. I don't like feeling out of control. I hate this, she gestured to the darkening sky. Luke stepped closer, not touching her, just standing nearby, a calm presence amid the growing chaos. I know, he said. It's scary, but you're not alone. We face it together, slow, steady together. Emily wanted to push him away, to run back inside where she felt some illusion of safety, but instead she stayed. She felt the rain start to fall, cold and sharp, drenching her dress and hair. Luke didn't move away. He stood beside her, letting the storm beat down around them, letting her know she didn't have to face it alone. For the first time in a long while, Emily allowed herself to breathe. She allowed herself to feel the rain, to feel the fear, to feel the small comfort of someone who would not abandon her. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't fast, but it was real. As the storm passed, Emily and Luke walked back to the house together, mud squelching under their boots. She laughed, a small, shaky sound, but it was the first laugh that came from the heart in months. Luke didn't tease or try to force more. He simply smiled, a quiet approval, a recognition of the small step she had taken. In the evenings that followed, Emily began to let herself talk more. She shared pieces of her past, fragments of memories she had locked away, moments of pain and disappointment. Luke listened without interruption, without judgment, without rushing. Sometimes he asked gentle questions. Other times he simply nodded, letting her words settle in the quiet of the room. She noticed little things about him that made her feel safe. The way he prepared meals without fuss. The way he repaired fences with careful hands. The way he always remembered small details about her, like the way she liked her tea or the song she hummed in the mornings. These simple acts, consistent and steady, became the foundation of something new, a trust that was not demanded but earned. One evening, Emily sat by the fireplace, staring at the dancing flames. She realized she had not cried all day. She had not felt the sharp edge of panic as she had before. She felt something else, hope, fragile but undeniable. Luke sat across from her, polishing his boots quietly, his presence steady, reassuring. She wanted to speak, to tell him how much it meant, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she reached across the space between them and let her hand brush against his. He didn't pull away. He let her feel the warmth of his palm, a silent acknowledgement that he was there, that he would stay, that she didn't have to rush, and she didn't have to fear alone. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's small steps became bigger. She laughed more, spoke more, and began to see a future that wasn't dominated by fear. Luke remained patient, never pushing, never demanding. He met her where she was, slow and steady, teaching her that love was not about rushing to fix everything, but about growing together, even through pain. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily whispered the words she had wanted to say for so long. I think I'm ready to try to really trust, with you." Luke's eyes softened. He reached out, gently holding her hands in his. "Then we go slow," he said, "together." Emily smiled through the tears. This time they were not tears of despair, but of relief, of hope, of a heart beginning to heal. She realized that love did not have to be instant. It did not have to fix everything in a moment. Sometimes the most beautiful love was the one that grew quietly, patiently, between two hearts willing to wait and grow together. And in that moment, Emily felt a spark of something she had thought she lost forever: trust. Trust in him, trust in herself, and trust in the possibility of a love that could heal, slowly but surely, one steady step at a time. Emily woke early that morning to the soft light of dawn spilling across the fields. She pulled her shawl around her shoulders and stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the cool air. The smell of fresh hay and the faint scent of wildflowers wrapped around her like a gentle promise. She could hear the distant lowing of cows and the soft neighing of horses in the barn. Life was waking up slowly, steadily, just like Luke had said they should. Luke was already outside, leaning on the wooden fence that ran along the pasture. His eyes scanned the horizon as if he could read the land itself. When he noticed her, he offered a small smile, the kind that made her heart skip a beat. "Morning," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Morning," Emily replied, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She felt a strange combination of nervousness and comfort. She had learned to trust him, but old fears still whispered at the edges of her mind. They spent the morning together tending the farm. Emily helped feed the animals while Luke repaired a section of the fence that had been weakened by last week's storm. She admired the way he worked, not rushing, paying attention to each nail, each board, each detail. There was a quiet patience in him, a way of living that made her feel safer even without words. As the sun climbed higher, Emily noticed her own hands working without trembling, her thoughts not racing in panic as they had before. She realized she was enjoying the work. She laughed when a goat tried to nibble at her sleeve, and Luke chuckled quietly beside her. The sound was soothing, like a song she had forgotten she loved. After they finished the chores, they sat under the shade of an old oak tree. Luke passed her a mug of tea, the warmth seeping into her cold fingers. She looked at him and felt the pull of something new, something that was not fear or pain, but a gentle trust. "I never thought I'd feel this calm," Emily admitted, staring into her cup. "Even just being here with you feels right." Luke nodded, his gaze kind and steady. "It's not about feeling perfect all the time. It's about finding moments of peace, even when the world feels messy." Emily wanted to speak more, to tell him how much his patience meant, but the words caught in her throat. She realized she didn't have to force everything all at once. Slowly, in small moments, she was learning to breathe again, to trust again, to hope again. But old fears were never far behind. That evening, as they sat by the fire inside the small farmhouse, Emily's thoughts drifted to her past. Memories of betrayal and heartbreak clawed at her, and suddenly she felt that familiar panic rising in her chest. She looked at Luke, almost pleading. "I'm scared, I don't want to be hurt again. Can we just fix this quickly?" Luke shook his head gently, his hands resting calmly on his knees. "We can't fix everything at once," he said softly. "Healing doesn't work like that. But I can be here with you, step by step, together." Emily closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. She wanted to push him away, to demand instant comfort, but she remembered the way he had been patient, the way he never judged her, the way he allowed her to grow without pressure. Slowly, she let herself relax against the rhythm of his calmness. Over the next few days, Emily's trust grew little by little. She began sharing more of her past, bits and pieces that had stayed locked away for years. Luke listened without interruption, without judgment, absorbing her pain like a steady river that could carry it without breaking. Sometimes he asked gentle questions, but mostly he just listened. And that listening was enough. One afternoon, as they worked together in the garden, Emily accidentally dropped a basket of tomatoes. They rolled across the ground, leaving small red stains on her shoes. She bent down quickly to pick them up, embarrassed. Luke knelt beside her, helping gather the fallen fruit. "It's okay," he said gently. "These things happen, no need to rush or panic." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was a small, simple gesture, but it meant something. Luke didn't scold her or make her feel clumsy. He just offered help without words, without judgment, without forcing anything. In that moment, Emily realized that healing didn't have to be dramatic. It could be quiet, patient, and steady, just like Luke. A few days later, Emily received a letter from her family asking her to come home for a visit. The thought of leaving the safe rhythm of her life with Luke filled her with anxiety. She didn't want to face the past she had tried to escape. She didn't want to confront the people who had hurt her. Luke noticed her hesitation. "You don't have to go if you're not ready," he said quietly, putting a hand on her shoulder. "But if you do, I'll be here when you come back. We go slow together." Emily nodded, tears threatening to spill again. She realized that Luke's presence had become her anchor. No matter what happened outside, she could face it because she knew he would be there, steady and unwavering. When she returned from her family visit, Emily had faced her fears and spoken honestly about her feelings. It hadn't been easy. She had been confronted with old arguments, old mistakes, and old pain. But through it all, she realized she could survive it, and she had. More importantly, she had survived it without losing herself. Luke was waiting for her when she arrived back at the farm. He smiled softly, and Emily felt her heart lift. "See," he said, nodding toward the barn. "You made it step by step." Emily laughed through her tears. "Step by step," she repeated. It had become more than just words. It was a promise, a way of living, a reminder that she didn't have to rush, she didn't have to force herself, she didn't have to be perfect. As the days passed, Emily found herself noticing more small moments of joy. She watched the sun rise over the hills, casting golden light across the fields. She felt the soft nuzzle of a horse's nose against her hand. She laughed when a chicken chased her across the yard. These simple moments became treasures, reminders that life could be gentle and kind, even after so much pain. Luke continued to be her quiet guide, never rushing, never forcing, always present. They began to share small routines, morning walks across the fields, afternoons working in the garden, evenings by the fire sharing stories and laughter. Each day built on the last, creating a rhythm of trust and comfort that Emily had thought impossible. But not all days were easy. Emily still had moments of fear and doubt. Sometimes past memories would resurface, making her feel small and frightened, but Luke never let her face them alone. He would sit with her, hold her hand, and remind her that it was okay to feel, okay to cry, okay to be human. Slowly, she learned to accept her emotions instead of running from them. One evening, as the sky turned a soft pink and orange, Emily and Luke sat on the porch watching the sun set. Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. I think I'm ready to trust more," she said softly, leaning against his shoulder. Luke smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Then we keep going, slowly, together." Emily closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his presence wash over her. She realized that love didn't have to be instant, that healing didn't have to be forced. It could grow quietly, steadily, step by step, as long as someone was there to walk beside you. And in that moment, Emily felt hope bloom in her heart, a hope that had been buried under pain for too long, a hope that told her that maybe, just maybe, she could be happy again. Over the next weeks, Emily's confidence grew. She began to explore new hobbies, spending time with neighbors, helping at the local market, and even attending small town gatherings. Luke was always nearby, offering support without ever pushing her beyond her comfort zone. She learned that being patient with herself was just as important as trusting him. Every small success became a celebration. When Emily laughed freely with the townspeople, Luke smiled quietly, knowing that her growth was real, lasting, and not forced. When she shared her thoughts openly, he nodded in quiet pride. And when she faced moments of doubt, he never judged, only reminded her of the promise they had made, slow and steady together. By the end of the part, Emily had made a quiet but significant transformation. She was no longer the broken bride who begged for quick fixes. She was a woman learning to heal, learning to trust, and learning that love was not about rushing. It was about growing together day by day, step by step. Luke had become her anchor, her guide, and her partner in this slow, steady journey. She finally understood that patience could be more powerful than desperation, that presence could be stronger than quick solutions, and that real love was about walking through life together, no matter how slow the steps might be. Emily had begun to feel a sense of calm in her daily life, but she knew deep down that peace was never constant. Life had a way of testing even the strongest hearts, and hers was no exception. One morning she received news that shook her. An old friend from her past, someone she had trusted and loved, was coming to town. The message brought a storm of emotions: fear, anger, confusion, and a gnawing sense of insecurity. She sat on the porch, staring at the dirt road as if it might reveal the answers. Luke joined her quietly, his boots crunching softly on the gravel. He didn't ask what was wrong immediately. He just sat beside her, letting the silence give her space to gather her thoughts. "I don't know if I can handle this," Emily admitted finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Seeing him, all the memories will come back. I'll feel hurt again. I don't want to go through that." Luke reached out and took her hand, brushing his thumb over hers. His touch was steady, unhurried, grounding her in the present. "You won't face it alone," he said softly. "We go slow together. You handle this at your own pace. I'll be with you every step." Emily nodded, trying to calm the storm inside her. She knew he was right. She had come so far, learning to trust, to breathe, to hope again. She couldn't allow her past to sweep her back into despair. Not now, not after all the progress she had made. The day arrived. Emily's heart raced as she drove into town, Luke quietly riding alongside her in the truck. Her old friend, Michael, waited at the small cafe they used to frequent. Emily's stomach twisted with a mix of nostalgia and fear. Michael smiled warmly, but she could feel the tension in every movement, every glance. Luke stayed calm beside her, his presence like a steady anchor. "Remember," he whispered, slow. Together, Emily drew a deep breath and stepped out of the truck, forcing herself to walk with confidence, even though her heart trembled. The conversation with Michael was polite at first, almost formal, but Emily could feel the old emotions bubbling beneath the surface. There was the familiar tug of old memories, laughter, promises, moments that had once seemed perfect. And yet she remembered the pain that followed those memories. She remembered the betrayal, the broken trust. Luke noticed her hands trembling and gently squeezed hers under the table. "You're stronger than you think," he whispered. "You can handle this." Emily focused on his words. Slowly, she realized that the fear was still there, but it didn't have to control her. She spoke honestly, sharing her feelings with Michael without falling into old patterns of panic or pleading. She listened without judging, and she responded with calmness rather than desperation. For the first time, she faced her past without being consumed by it. After the meeting, Emily felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Luke guided her back to the truck without any rush. "See," he said quietly, "you handled it step by step together." But the challenges didn't end there. That evening, while returning home, Emily received another piece of news. A distant family member was going through a serious health issue, and she felt torn between wanting to help and wanting to protect herself from stress. Old habits of panic and rushing resurfaced. She wanted to fix everything immediately, to take on all responsibility at once. Luke noticed her tension immediately. "Emily, slow down," he said gently, holding her shoulders. "You don't have to carry everything by yourself. We handle things together, one step at a time." "You're not alone." Emily closed her eyes and let out a shaky breath. She had wanted quick solutions, instant relief, but she realized that trying to do everything at once only left her more anxious and exhausted. She let Luke guide her, helping her plan a small, manageable way to assist her family. Step by step, she felt the panic ebb, replaced with a sense of control and calm. In the following days, Emily worked to find balance. She continued to help her family, but she allowed Luke to share the responsibility. He drove with her to appointments, helped organize tasks, and offered gentle support without pushing or judging. Emily realized that she could handle difficult situations when she had someone steady by her side. She was learning that love and support didn't mean doing everything for someone. It meant being present, patient, and steady while they faced life's challenges. One afternoon, a small but meaningful moment occurred that reminded Emily of how far she had come. A neighbor's child had wandered too close to the creek, slipping on the muddy bank. Emily's first instinct was panic, but she remembered Luke's lessons: slow, calm, steady. She ran to the child, keeping her voice even, guiding him back to safety. Luke was behind her, ready if she needed him, but she realized she could act with calmness and confidence. After the incident, Emily felt a deep sense of pride. She looked at Luke, who gave her a quiet nod and a small smile. "See, you're stronger than you thought," he said, and she believed him. That evening, Emily sat by the fireplace, thinking about the events of the day. She realized that her growth wasn't just about surviving challenges. It was about facing them with courage, patience, and trust. She had learned to slow down, to breathe, and to accept help. She had learned that she didn't need instant solutions to feel safe or loved. And most importantly, she had learned that she didn't have to face life alone. But life still tested her resolve. One night, an unexpected visitor arrived, a former coworker who had once manipulated and hurt her emotionally. Emily's first reaction was panic. Her hands shook, her stomach twisted, and for a moment she wanted to flee. She wanted Luke to fix it for her, to make the problem disappear instantly. Luke noticed her fear and held her hand firmly. "We go slow together," he whispered. Emily took a deep breath, grounding herself in the present moment. She could feel the fear, but she could also feel Luke's calm presence. Slowly, she opened the door and faced the visitor. The conversation was tense, but Emily spoke with clarity and honesty. She set boundaries calmly, explaining what was acceptable and what was not. Luke stayed nearby, silent but supportive, letting her take the lead. By the end of the visit, Emily felt a sense of relief. She had faced someone who once caused her pain without panic or tears. She had confronted the past without losing herself. That night, as they sat together under the stars, Emily felt a new sense of confidence. She realized that her healing was real. She had faced challenges that once would have left her shattered, and she had survived. She had learned that love didn't need to be rushed, that trust didn't have to be instant, and that strength came from patience and support. Luke wrapped his arm around her shoulders and she leaned into him. "You've grown so much," he said quietly. "I'm proud of you." Emily smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You've taught me to slow down, to trust, to face life without panic. I think I'm ready to face whatever comes next, as long as you're with me." Luke squeezed her gently. "And I'll be here every step, no matter what." In the days that followed, Emily faced more challenges, small disagreements with friends, unexpected responsibilities, moments of doubt, but each time she remembered the lessons she had learned. She slowed down, breathed, and faced each moment with patience and courage. Luke remained by her side, steady and unwavering, guiding her not by taking over but by walking alongside her. Through these experiences, Emily discovered a deeper sense of self-respect and confidence. She realized that her past didn't define her, that she could choose how to respond to fear and pain. She could trust herself, trust Luke, and trust the slow, steady process of healing. By the end of this part, Emily had faced multiple challenges that would have once sent her into panic. She had confronted old fears, difficult people, and unexpected crises. She had learned to rely on patience, steady support, and her own growing inner strength. The woman who once begged for quick fixes was now learning to move forward step by step, building a life of trust, resilience, and love. She understood something vital now. Life would always bring challenges, but she did not have to face them alone, nor did she have to rush through them. With Luke by her side, she could face each day slowly, steadily together. And that knowledge filled her with a quiet joy she had never known before, a joy rooted in trust, love, and the courage to grow one step at a time. Emily woke to the soft morning light streaming through the curtains. The farm was quiet, the animals slowly beginning their day, and the air smelled faintly of dew and hay. She stretched and felt a small sense of calm settle over her. It had been months since she had first met Luke, months filled with slow healing, small victories, and steady love. She realized she was no longer the anxious, broken bride who had begged for quick solutions. She was stronger now, not because the world had changed, but because she had learned to trust and move slowly, patiently, and deliberately. Luke emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a cloth, and saw her standing by the window. He smiled gently, the kind of smile that spoke more than words ever could. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Emily replied, returning his smile. She felt the warmth of his presence like sunlight on her face. She realized that the calm she felt wasn't just the absence of fear. It was the presence of trust, the knowledge that no matter what happened, she didn't have to face it alone. They spent the morning together, feeding the animals and tending to the garden. The rhythm of the farm life, once overwhelming to Emily, now felt comforting. She moved with purpose but without rush, her hands steady and sure. Luke worked beside her, always patient, never pushing, always present. Each day, each small act, built a foundation of trust and love that neither could rush. After chores, they sat under the old oak tree, sharing a quiet meal. Emily noticed how peaceful the moment felt, how easy it was to simply be with someone who cared without demanding or rushing. She glanced at Luke, his calm gaze meeting hers, and felt a surge of gratitude. He had taught her more than she could have imagined, not just about trust, but about patience, love, and the courage to face life slowly, step by step. Later that afternoon, Emily decided to walk through the fields alone, letting her thoughts wander. She paused near the creek, the soft gurgle of water soothing her. Memories of her past came to mind, moments of pain and fear, but she no longer felt consumed by them. Instead, she acknowledged them, accepted them, and let them drift away like leaves on the water. She realized she had grown in ways she hadn't understood before. She could now face life without panic, without desperation, and with the calm confidence that came from healing gradually, with care. Luke found her there, standing quietly by the creek. He approached slowly, not rushing her, not interrupting her thoughts. He simply stood beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. "You've changed," he said softly. Emily smiled. "I think I have," she admitted. "I've learned that life doesn't have to be rushed. I've learned that love doesn't have to fix everything at once. And I've learned that having someone by your side makes the slow journey possible." Luke nodded, his hand finding hers. "And I'll be here for every step. No matter how slow, no matter what comes, we face it together." Emily squeezed his hand, feeling the steady warmth and support that had carried her through so many challenges. She realized that she no longer needed instant reassurance or quick fixes. She had learned the value of patience, consistency, and shared strength. Each day, each step had been a lesson in trust and love. As the days passed, Emily and Luke continued to build their life together. They celebrated small victories, the first sprout in the garden, a calf born healthy, a successful day of work without mishaps. Each small success became a symbol of growth and resilience. Emily laughed more freely, spoke with confidence, and embraced the slow, steady rhythm of life that Luke had shown her. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, they sat together on the porch, watching the fields stretch into the horizon. Emily rested her head on Luke's shoulder, feeling the gentle rise and fall of his breath. "I used to be afraid of moving slowly," she said softly. "I wanted everything fixed right away, but now I see the beauty in taking time, in growing together, in facing life one step at a time." Luke kissed the top of her head gently. That's because you've learned to trust not just me but yourself, and that trust is stronger than anything instant could ever be." Emily smiled, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. She realized that her journey had not been about escaping pain quickly, but about learning to face it patiently, with courage, and with love. The brokenness she had once felt had been replaced with resilience and hope. She could finally imagine a future where love was not frantic or forced, but slow, steady, and enduring. Over the following weeks, Emily continued to embrace life fully. She began helping her neighbors, taking part in town activities, and even teaching a small group of children how to care for animals. Each act reminded her that growth and healing were not just personal. They were shared, nurtured in connection with others. And through it all, Luke remained a constant presence, guiding without controlling, loving without rushing. One rainy afternoon, a small accident occurred on the farm. A wheelbarrow tipped over, scattering soil and tools. Emily could have panicked as she once would have, but she felt a quiet confidence instead. She took a deep breath, assessed the situation, and calmly began to put things back in order. Luke came to help not because she needed rescuing, but because together the task became easier and even enjoyable. She realized that life's small challenges were no longer threats. They were opportunities to grow, to practice patience, and to appreciate the steady support of someone who cared. By the end of the season, the farm was thriving, and Emily felt a deep satisfaction in the life she had helped build. She looked at Luke one evening as they sat watching the sunset, and her heart swelled with gratitude and love. "I never thought I could feel this happy," she said softly. "I never thought I could trust and grow without rushing, without fear." Luke smiled, taking her hand. "And you did it step by step with patience and courage, and we did it together." Emily leaned against him, feeling the warmth and steadiness she had come to rely on. The lessons of the past, the pain, the broken trust, the desperation for quick solutions, had shaped her, but they no longer controlled her. She had learned to face life slowly, to embrace love patiently, and to build a future with someone who walked beside her every step of the way. As the stars emerged in the night sky, Emily and Luke sat quietly on the porch, their hands entwined, their hearts connected. Emily realized that true love was not about instant gratification or quick fixes. It was about trust, patience, and steady presence. It was about growing together through challenges, sharing moments of joy, and facing fears with courage and support. And in that quiet, starlit moment, Emily knew that she was finally whole. She had learned that healing takes time, that love takes patience, and that life is best faced slowly, steadily together. Luke had shown her that, and she had embraced it fully. The broken bride who had begged for quick fixes was gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned to trust, to hope, and to love with patience, courage, and a steady heart. As the night deepened, Emily rested her head on Luke's shoulder once more, feeling the rhythm of his calm breathing. She thought of all the small steps, the moments of doubt, the times she had been afraid. Each had been part of her journey, each had taught her something vital. And now she could face the future with confidence, knowing that no matter what came, she and Luke would face it slowly, steadily, and together. The world outside the farm continued on, storms, sunrises, challenges, and surprises, but Emily no longer feared it. She had found a love that was patient, a trust that was steady, and a life that was full of hope. She had learned that happiness and healing are not instant. They are built step by step, moment by moment, with someone who walks beside you through it all. And so, under the soft glow of the moon and stars, Emily and Luke sat together in quiet contentment. Their journey was far from over, but Emily knew one thing for certain. With patience, love, and steady presence, they could face anything together. The slow, steady journey had brought her peace, trust, and joy, a joy she had never thought possible but now held firmly in her heart. For the first time in her life, Emily smiled without fear, laughed without hesitation, and loved without panic. And that was more than enough.